But interestingly enough, despite the problems caused by mass Muslim immigration, there are still people who defend it. I mean, there are these huge protests gathering in Germany at the moment against the so-called far-right Alternative for Germany party, who, amongst other things, are threatening to deport illegal immigrants. So if so many social issues are emerging from immigration, why are these activists so eager to hang on to them?
Well, I think one thing is by now, by the way, they no longer call them demonstrations against the far rights. They have now kind of morphed into demonstrations against the right, period. So this is not just, neo-Nazi elements. It's everybody who's to the right of the Greens basically is now subject of being demonstrated against. And the other thing is because a significant part of both in the cultural, media and political sector, they have invested their entire identity in the multicultural dream or the multicultural delusion, which I think is a better way to describe it. And again, I understand it from a human perspective. If you believe in something your entire life and it turns out that whatever you believed in was actually wrong, it's very hard to give that up. So what they very often do is they say, here's my favorite part, they say, no, the reason why we have these problems is because the far right is so mean. So basically, if the far right or the right or whatever, if they wouldn't exist, then everything would be hunky-dory. But the problem, once again, is we no longer have an objective, or at least attempting to be objective media. I mean, you saw this in recent weeks. I'm sure your listeners were aware of the bloodbath story with Donald Trump, where they basically are peddling fake news. By the way, the same was true in Germany. The so-called quote-unquote right-wing conference where they talked about the deportation of even German passport holders. It never happened that way. But even the newspaper that reported it said, well, it didn't really, it was an opinion piece. It wasn't really a report. So we had a situation in Germany where you had a fake news report that then was used by the government to instigate demonstrations against the opposition. I mean, this is, Eastern German stuff from the 1960s and 1970s. And this is worrisome. The media is voluntarily colluding with it. I mean, honestly, I have to admit, Hitler and Stalin at their, weekly poker game in hell, they must, slap their heads and say, wow, like we had, espionage and we tried to control the media. And so how did they do it in nowadays contemporary Europe, where the media goes along with it voluntarily? It's quite interesting.
It is quite interesting, and it is certainly frightening. Now, look, Ralph, just before we go, we've probably got about a minute, but I'd love your take on this.